Hello there. I want to talk about your first knife, but I need to preface it with some things. First of all, this channel or this playlist is for people that are just getting into knives, or people who've never owned a knife, or they've never carried pocket knives around with them as a regular kind of thing, or anything like that. They don't know how to sharpen freehand, and I say freehand because these playlists, if you look at my channel and the other two channels that I have, and you'll find them, links to them to the right of the home page on this channel. As far as I know, unless YouTube sticks something else up there, there's two links on the home page of each one of my channels that will link you to my different channels. Okay, but this playlist, this channel, it's about trying to share things that I love with others, and things that I think need to be retained. There's a lot of skills that are being lost because of modernization. Freehand knife sharpening is one of those skills. And now you have all kinds of guided systems, and I'm not putting anyone down that uses a guided system. If that's what you like and you're getting the results you want from it, more power to you. But my opinion, nobody else is not saying that my opinion is right and everybody else's is wrong or anything like that, but for me, if you're using a guided system, you know, I could probably sit on most guided systems and be half asleep, and if I ran the thing right, I'd come up with a good edge. They have their place. If you're a pro and you're sharpening knives for a living, and speed is of the essence because and repeatable speed, quickly and repeatably over and over again, okay, in order to make money you got to do a lot of different knives, sharpen a lot of different knives and tools and stuff like that, then a guided system makes sense. But again, my opinion, these kind of systems, they take the soul out of what you're doing. And you might say, well, a knife edge doesn't have any soul. Well, yeah, it does. Okay, there's a certain type of satisfaction to being able to take a rock and a knife and sit down and put an edge on that knife, a shaven sharp edge, okay, just with your hand and a stone, okay. That's an art, alright? It's an art that has to be learned and practiced in order to stay proficient with. It's not, you know, you don't have anything doing it for you. You have to learn it. And that's kind of what this channel is about, is I want people to learn that skill because it's a valuable skill to have. It really is. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about 200 years ago or today, the value of having a sharp edge at hand when you need it. Okay, most of the time you won't need it. But when you need an edge, you need a flipping edge, okay? And there's value in it. But besides that, it's an art form that's dying. And if I can show someone, because a lot of guys don't do it because they go, well, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. It's not rocket science. This is not brain surgery. There are basic techniques to freehand knife sharpening that if you learn them, you can do it. And the value of showing someone how to do that, and that person becoming proficient at it, you know, there's a really big boost to doing something that you thought you couldn't do. And I'll kind of preface what I'm fixing to say with, okay, I'm not Bruce Lee, but I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. Okay, when I first started Taekwondo, I was the clumsiest person that you ever want to meet, and I've been clumsy all my life. Now I was a boxer before that, but Taekwondo, martial arts, the Asian martial arts, because boxing is a martial art too, doesn't just, you have to have a good center of balance in order to pull that stuff off. And I never thought, you know, I'd be able to break boards with my hand. I never thought, or my feet, I never thought, you know, I could fly across a room, you know. But I learned it. And it's a huge confidence build. Now I'm old and fat now and probably couldn't do half of that anymore. Right? But I can still defend myself well because I know the basics and I've practiced them enough that they're instinctive. And I say that, like I said, I'm not Bruce Lee or anything like that. I'm not tooting my own horn. But there was an incredible kind of satisfaction, all right, entertaining that black belt. And the journey along the way, each time that I did something I never thought that I would ever have been capable of doing, the satisfaction of that, you can't buy, beg, borrow, or steal that, all right? It's the same with knife sharpening, okay? I want people that have never done it before, or that have tried and struggled over and over again and just couldn't do it, to take basic techniques and learn how to do that, all right? And so this channel is not about, that's what this channel is about. It's not about, you know, different knife steels. It's every now and then I'll do a review of a knife. Mostly the knives that I own are cheap. Okay, and a lot of the knife world would consider most of the steel that I use to be junk. All right, but you have to understand that I grew up carrying knives like this, little pocket knives, and this is still my favorite kind of knife to carry, bar none. It's just a traditional type of pocket knife. This is a good one. This is an old Schrade, old timer, Scrimshaw series from the 80s, I think. But there's softer steels than the modern steels now. Similarly, there are modern steels, 8 CRV, 7 CRV, that kind of deal, that are softer steels. And a lot of the knife sharpeners and the knife reviewers and things like that, well, that's junk steel. Well, okay, everybody has differing opinions. And I will say that something like S30V is, from what I understand, because I've never owned anything, but the milder steels, I do not have the budget for it. And I'm not saying, okay, that that I'm poor, and I'm not whining about my financial situation, okay? But when you start getting into the higher grades of steel, you just well budget about $100, give or take. 20 bucks either way, something like that. 80 to 120 will get you a nice knife like that. Well, if you have that kind of money and can afford to do that, you ought to explore the different steels that are out there, because I think you'll find it rewarding. But this channel is for people that are just starting out, or for people like me that are on a budget, you know. And I will, you know, unless I find a really good deal, like on a used one, and it'll probably be jacked up and I'll have to restore it and all that, which is not a problem, okay, then I'm not ever gonna own a knife like that, and I don't have a problem with that, because I can take something like that put a screaming edge on it. Got pocket lint on the edge of that. But I can put a screaming edge on that blade, and I can maintain that edge, and it'll work just fine. Now, I'm not working in a factory where I'm cutting a bunch of stuff all day. This will cut paper, it'll cut rope, it'll cut, you know, if I'm working in the yard, it'll cut weed eater line, and that's probably the most abuse it'll ever see, okay? So I can maintain this edge, and it works good. I sharpened this edge a good while back. It still shaves the hair off my arm. I've used it. And we're getting into what I do as far as edge maintenance and stuff like that in a later video. But it's a soft steel. I think this is 8CRV, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't say, but I believe that's what this is 8CRV something. Or 8CR, not 8CRV, 8CR such and such, MOV, whatever. It's a softer steel. Okay. But it works for me. What I'm trying to say is this channel is not about a comparison between steels like that. It's not about saying get this kind of steel or that kind of steel because everything else is junk. And look, I know there are people out there, they don't have that kind of attitude. It's just that they are experienced in nicer steels, and that's what they prefer. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. But for a beginner, there's a couple reasons I like I think this is 7CR 17 MOV. This is a newer Schrade old timer knife. Soft steel. I tell you a little secret. Case that you'll pay $40, $50, $60, probably more like $60 or so for a knife this size that says case on it. They're still just as soft. Sorry, hate to tell you, they're around 56 Rockwell. If you look them up, if you look at the different websites and stuff like that, and you look at the ones that list it, 56 Rockwell, 56 Rockwell, 56. Most guys want something in the 60 to 61 Rockwell range now. That's what, but when I was young, I'm 56, okay, we had softer steels. That's the knives that we had, and I've learned to use the softer steels and make them work for me because that's all we had. Alright, but there's a couple of reasons that I recommend the softer steels, the steels that a lot of people would say are junk. And it's because they're easy to sharpen. Alright, and you can quickly get them sharp again, and you don't always have to take them to a stone. And one of the things that will help you to learn to sharpen is success. So if you start with a soft, now if you can afford something better made, you know, a case knife is a really well made knife. The steel is soft, but the knives are really well made. If you can pop $50 for a case, do it. Okay? But, you know, I'm talking to people that are on a budget like me, or people that don't know very much about knives and knife steel. The thing of it is your first knife, it doesn't have to be anything super special. It just has to be something that you can get a good edge on. I can get a screaming edge on that steel, okay? Real fast. It's easy because it's not super hard. Alright? So that's one of the reasons I would recommend that kind of steel. Another reason is these are kind of lower grade or mid grade. What I would consider low grade, lower grade is something like this crappy Camillus or Camillus or whatever you want to call. I call them Camillus. That's a crap steel. Flat out it is. But I can put a nice edge on that blade and keep it on there. But it'll require more maintenance even than something like this. Okay? But these knives, some of the Schrade stainless steel, this is the Schrade Plus, I think it's called. Let's see if it's stamped on the blade. Oh, I can't even read it. Yeah. I don't know if you can. That's good steel in my opinion. It's harder. It holds an edge longer. All kind of things. But these are usable. You can get a good edge on them, and if you maintain them properly, you can. For small tasks, this knife will work just fine. You're not going to pull it out of your pocket and impress anybody with it, but it'll work. Okay. So, you know, as you progress in the knives and stuff like that, if you begin to collect and a lot of times with knife collecting, it ain't steel, but it's the types of knives and stuff like that. Some people collect certain types of quality steel, and other people will collect certain types of knives. Okay, it just depends. But as you progress with sharpening, you're going to develop your own preferences. You're going to find that there are nicer knives, better made knives than these beginner types of knives here. Alright, but if I can get you into a knife that you can put an edge on consistently and learn the basics of knife sharpening and knife maintenance, alright, then when you progress to harder steels, better made knives, yada yada yada, all of that, you can carry the skills that you learn on these knives here on into that, and your world is your oyster at that point. But I want to kind of give you kind of my opinion on the knives that you ought to consider for your first knife. The first thing that I would tell you is don't buy something like that as a first time. Don't buy as a first knife some big fat pig sticker, some big long. Alright, this is an old, I believe it's an 80s old Explorer. I think this is a 2. Yeah, Survivor 2. This is a 440C. It's got the Rambo-esque hollow handle, all that kind of deal. No, I did not spend a bunch of money on this knife. I paid like $8 for it, I think, at a flea market. And it's a really nice knife, as knives like these go. Okay, but there's a couple of things wrong with it for a beginner. First, it's too long, and right now what you're trying to learn is to maintain a consistent angle. All right. Well, maintaining a consistent angle on that, what is that, a 10-inch blade or something, okay? Maintaining a consistent angle on that length of blade, you're pretty much handicapping yourself starting out. Knives like these are for more advanced sharpeners, to, once you've learned. Also, if you look at this knife has a bit of what they call a recurve, similar to this buck. This is I forget what it's called, something LT. It's here's the box for it. It's an Ascend LT. It's a US made buck. I'm sure it's 420HC. It's a nice knife. But if you look at this knife, it's got a recurve on it. Now this is to sharpen a blade like this takes a bit more advanced technique. You can sharpen this if it's not very much of a recurve with a straight on approach. Well, I use a kind of angled approach on the stone and move like that most of the time if you watch my videos. But you can sharpen that edge that way, but the more you sharpen it, the greater that recurve is going to be, and there's going to come a point where you're going to have to use a different technique to get that. So as a learner knife, a knife that has a recurve like that, don't pick that kind of knife. Okay, similar, same thing with this. Okay, this is not super long. It is a bit longer than what I would suggest for a beginner. But look at the shape of this blade. Okay, it's an odd shape. In my opinion, that's not a good idea for a beginner knife. Okay, what you want in a beginner knife, let me put that back in the sheath, is you want something, and I'll take the Pizzoda. You want something that's not too long, that has a straight edge. The shape is kind of a normal kind of shape, okay, to learn with. Alright, and it could be something like this. This is more of a modern type folder, or something along the lines of a traditional pocket knife like that, or something like this. Or like this Schrade Bruin, just a small, this got like a 2 3/4 inch blade, flat ground blade. Okay, it's 7CR17, so it's fairly soft, easy to sharpen. The blade's thin, so it's easier to sharpen as well. This happens to be a lockback, which I like that too. One other thing, or you could do like the Buck 110. It's a little long, but that would work good for a beginner as well, if you want a bit bigger knife. Another thing that I would steer you away from is, remember the cheapo Camelus? That kind of blade. Stay away from this crap, okay? You want a solid edge all the way to the end, okay? From here all the way to here. A nice solid straight edge. Screw this, okay? In my opinion, I know there are guys out there that like that. I hate them. This came in a set, that's why I have it. I would not personally, this was a gift, I would not personally buy a knife with that, unless I was like an emergency personnel, police or rescue, and then a knife with that kind of edge would work with the serrations and stuff, would work really well cutting through like a seat belt or something to pull somebody out of a burning vehicle or something like that. Then there's a purpose in it. But for a regular pocket knife, that right there, stay away from it, my opinion. Besides, you're only sharpening this part of the blade. Learn to sharpen the whole flipping thing. We're talking about a first knife, a beginner knife. Alright? One of the other things that you can do that I love, now you got to watch them and look at them real close, make sure they're not jacked up. Alright? This I bought at a flea market for nothing. Okay? It needed some work. The blade was scratched up beyond belief, and I cleaned it up. Got fingerprints all over it right now, but I cleaned it up and put an edge on it, and it's a fantastic, and I restored the scrimshaw on it, stuff like that. Fantastic knife for next to nothing. Another knife you might want are the Swiss Army knives. You can find them. You just don't buy a cheapo. Buy a Victorinox or I forget the other one, but there's two. Everything else is a fake. It's made in China or Taiwan or someplace like that. Those knives used are not expensive at all. There's no reason to spend $15 on a crappy copy of one of those knives when you can go to a flea market and buy a quality Victorinox or Swiss Army knife for that kind of money that's used. Okay, But this is another one you don't see very often. But if you see one of these knives and it's in good shape, this is an old Camp King. This is made by Schrade. It's made by Imperial Color. It's a U.S. made knife. It's got it's like the Swiss Army. Let me close that blade. But it's like the Swiss Army. I can't get the darn thing open. This is but it has can opener, or I'm sorry, bottle opener, a can opener, a little punch, or awl, or whatever you want to call it. I can't get the can opener open now. It was working fine until I started this video, and now the sucker don't want to open. But that's alright. But I mean, this carbon steel blade, this is old stuff. That'll take a slamming edge, and they're fun to carry because they're old. I like old things. So, but look, one other thing that I would say, when you're talking about the mid-range, this is what I would call mid-range. A lot of people call them the low range, but like I said, that's a low-end knife. This Camelus is a low-end knife. These, like this Pizzota, even though the steel is not all that great, arguably, they're built well. Same thing with Kershaw and, oh, what's the other? I can't remember the company now. But all of those, okay. One of the things that I would tell you is this knife and this knife, the steel is going to be similar. Any of these mid-range is what I call a mid-range. Anything like $50 and under to me is a mid-range knife generally. But you can pay more for knives like these too. But this and this, this and this, okay, this and this, the Kershaws, all of these knives, the steel's going to be pretty much the same, okay? So don't get caught up in a brand. Pick the knife that you like because of the way it's made, the way it feels in your hand, how appealing it is to you, that kind of deal. But pick something that's appropriate for a beginner to learn to sharpen, that's got a straight edge, that's got a fairly short blade, not, you know, you don't want an 8-inch or 10-inch blade, a 5-inch blade or under, straight blade, that's not shaped funky, with a straight edge, with no serrated section or anything like that. Something simple and easy to work with. There's a reason why some of these designs have lasted as long as they have, and they continue, like the shapes, blade shapes. Something like that. Or that. Or this almost Bowie-esque type shape. There's a reason why these shapes are still popular today. It's because they work. And they work well. So pick something like that and learn to sharpen. And then as you progress into the knife world, then you can begin to explore what you can afford, alright? In the range of what you can afford, you can explore and decide for yourself, you know, the kind of steel you want, the design of the knife that you want. You'll develop those preferences as you go along. What I want to do is to show you you can sharpen a knife. This channel will never be about calling somebody else's knife junk or telling you what you should buy instead if you want to, you know, be, you know, a serious knife collector or whatnot. This channel is about one thing: teaching people that don't know how to sharpen a knife how to get a sharp edge. And then you do with that skill what you want. Alright? Happy sharpening. Bless you. Oh, before I leave, if you don't carry a pocket knife, shame on you. Find the laws in your state about the length of the blade that you're allowed to carry and stuff like that, and get a knife appropriate to that, but you should be carrying a pocket knife anywhere you go. You should. I have a pocket knife with me when I'm in church, okay? But I'm an old country boy, you know, and I've carried one ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And you won't find me without a pocket knife in my pocket. So get one, learn how to sharpen it, stick that puppy in your pocket, and don't leave home without it. Thanks for watching. Bless you. I'll talk to you later.